In this presentation, I'm going to go over the first rough draft required for the professional portfolio. It will be helpful for you to have the following resources. First one is the directions for the professional portfolio, and all these resources are attached to the assignment in Moodle. So your directions, which includes the directions and the rubric for the professional portfolio, the professional portfolio template for your profession. So if you're a PE teacher, just download the PE teacher template. If you're a coach, use just the coaching template, and if you're a strength and conditioning coach, just download the strength and conditioning template. And you also need the example of a professional portfolio that I've provided. You'll see in that the completed professional portfolio, it's from an athletic trainer, and the reason why I used athletic trainer portfolio instead of a PE teacher or coach is because I didn't want to entice you to or be tempted to copy and paste and plagiarize. In this presentation, I'm primarily going to use the template and the completed portfolio, but I wanted to show you the directions, and I wanted to point out the rubric, which is also in the syllabus and also in the directions that I provided in the assignment. It's in Appendix C, and this is the rubric that will be used to assess your professional portfolios that you'll complete in this course. And so you should read these and familiarize yourself with the rubric. All right, let's go to the completed portfolio. Again, this is from an athletic trainer, but the reason why I'm providing an example of from an athletic trainer is because the goal for these professional portfolios is that somebody who's not a teacher or coach can read this information and still understand the material. That's the level that we want to get to. So I know you're not athletic trainers, a certified athletic trainer like this student, and so you should be able to read the material and have a good understanding of what the student is trying to explain to you. And I'll go to one of the templates. This is for a PE teacher. I've provided you what the template should look like. Your title page, all you have to do is enter, this will be for your first draft, you'll put in part 1, your name, the date that that assignment is due, and the instructor's name, which you can find in the syllabus. And then table of contents, you'll see that this portfolio template is for the entire semester. So what you'll turn in for the first week, you're going to get rid of everything else below the executive summary. You should only include table of contents, the introduction, the page number for your introduction. This page 4 dash is when you complete your portfolio, you're going to put in the total pages for your first part of your portfolio. Then you'll have your shape, executive summary, standard 1 shape, or if you're a coach, it would be NASB domain 1, or if you're a strength and conditioning coach, it would be NSCA standard 1 executive summary and the page number that starts on. But everything else for your first draft, all this information, the rest of the title page will be eliminated. Just remove it. I would recommend that you save a file for the template as whole, and then have a running, what's the right word, a working document with your edits, so you update that. So always have the template as is, like I have it here, and then have another file of your working document. Because you'll see through this semester through this course, we're going to have 3 different parts. Part 1 is the first 4 weeks of our class. Part 2 is the second 4 weeks, or weeks 5, 6, 7, and 8. Part 3 is weeks, we'll have spring break in the spring, but it will be weeks 9, 10, 11, and 12. No, that's not right. Yeah, weeks 9, 10, 11, and 12 after spring break. That you'll do the third part of your professional portfolio. So for this week, you're just going to be doing the executive summary, your introduction and your executive summary. So let's talk about what's included in your introduction. It doesn't matter if you're a PE teacher, coach, or strength and conditioning individual at this point. You'll start your professional portfolio where you'll introduce yourself to the reader of your portfolio. Provide your name, your educational and professional experience, any certifications or licensures you have, contact information, any personal information that you want to share about yourself. If you want, include a picture. It's usually helpful for me to see what you look like. I will not grade this at all. This is just your background information for me to get to know you better, or if anybody else is going to read this, for them to get to know you better. Again, you're not going to be graded on this. You'll see in the rubric that there is no introduction section. There's no point value. It's just some place to provide information about your background. And in the example, I did not put their portfolio or their introduction just to protect their identity. Then our next section, and what you're going to write for this first week of our class, is the executive summary for the assigned standard or domain. Please go to the Module 1 overview and or the syllabi, provide you with what standard for PE teachers and strength and conditioning coaches, or domain for coaches that you'll summarize this week. Basically, the goal of the executive summary section is to explain the assigned standard or domain in language that a non-teacher or a non-coach could understand what that standard or domain means. You'll see the language is a little bit different for each, depending on what profession you do. I try to use the same language. All I did is change this part of it right here. So if you're a coach, you'll see that it says NASP, National Association of Sport and Physical Education, domains, coaching domains. So explain this standard in such a way that a non-PE teacher would understand it. So let's go over to our athletic trainer's executive summary. So what I would recommend that you do is read. In the athletic trainers, they have one code of professional responsibility and one code of practice standard. So it's a little bit different than everybody else, but same ideal though. You should be able to read this summary and have a good understanding what that summary means, what that code of professional responsibility means, and same with the practice standard. You're not athletic trainers, but you still, after reading the 1 to 2 paragraphs, you should have a good understanding of what this means. Now for PE teachers, you'll see one thing that I put in here, that in the SHAPE standards, the Society of Health and Physical Educators SHAPE PE standards, you also have grade level outcomes. So if you are a 7th grade teacher, you'll need to also explain the specific grade level outcomes for the grade that you teach. Try to use language when you're describing any of the standard or the domains as a coach. Without using a lot of technical language. Try to keep it so your parents of your students or your athletes can understand the material. Now, a word for the coaches. You'll see in the NASB document, the textbook, that each domain there are multiple standards. What I do not want you to do is to explain every single standard within the domain. So you need to explain the domain as a whole. So the first domain is about having an athletic-centered philosophy. And then within that particular domain, there are certain standards and benchmarks you'll see within each domain that tells you if you are meeting that particular domain. So look at that domain, they use the saying that look at the forest versus the trees. So you want to kind of back up, give us a 30,000 foot level description of the domain versus trying to get into the trees, which is the standards and the benchmarks. I didn't know this can be a bit challenging, but that's why we're doing rough drafts, so I can help you through this process. Again, this entire section should only be 1 or 2 paragraphs in length. It's quick and to the point. Again, use the example that I provided you to see how a person who's an athletic trainer explains this so a non-athletic trainer can understand it. The other thing I want to point out is notice that this student is citing the sources and is supporting what he or she wrote in the summary section with references. Now these references are the standards document, and you should be citing your standards in your executive summary. But he also has cited additional references here. So this is called evidence-based academics. It's a term that I think I made up. It's the evidence we use to support what we think and know and write about. The evidence we use for this class will be the standards or SHAPE or NASB or NSCA standards book, but it may be additional resources too to support what you're writing about. This is going to be true throughout this program, that you should support what you're writing with evidence or with references. And this student used APA, as you should be using APA. So if you don't know how to use APA, we've provided helps in the introduction assignment, in the I'll call it the Moodle orientation course, to help you understand how to cite with APA. So what you'll turn in again this week is you're going to turn in the title page. You update the table of contents where you only have this much of the table of contents. You'll eliminate all this other material from the table of contents. You'll turn in your introduction. You'll turn in your executive summary, and then you need to eliminate everything else out of this template until you get to the reference page. Get to the reference page. So get to the reference page. Now I've already provided you how to cite the particular standard for if this is for a strength and conditioning portfolio. But I have put in each one for the specific standard. So this is the actual APA citation that you should use, because you should be citing this in your executive summary at minimum. And all this other material you can get rid of, because you're not going to cite courage and calling yet. That's for a later time. And you need to get rid of the appendix for your first rough draft. But your other rough drafts are going to continue to build on the drafts in your portfolio through this class. As always, if you have questions, post them in the question and answer form in our course, because more than likely if you have a question, other students have the exact same question. So let's help each other. And if that's, I'll get back to you very quickly. If that still doesn't help, we can set up a time to talk on the phone so I can still help you and assist you with this. Again, I think if you use the example that I provided, professional portfolio, I think it'll be beneficial to you. Again, we only are doing the introduction and the executive summary for your first draft.